Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins in a post-apocalyptic version of America where a plague has wiped out all but a few of the population. The survivor Pearl's trying to escape New York with a formula for a cure and deliver it to doctors in Atlanta but is being chased by a pack of psychotic bodybuilding pirates. Her valiant but already too wounded to continue partner volunteers to remain behind to hold them off, but he's no match for the Buff Brigade who already enjoy the current state of the world that they live in and don't want anything to change. Their bright-eyed leader Fender reveals that he wants the cure for himself and kills the man off-screen, which is surprising considering this film's level of violence. It does this a few times where the gang's pillaging in some of the most gruesome scenes, but when Fender kills it's just left to our imagination. The sand pirates eventually corner the courier in an alley, but our story's hero just happens to be passing by and saves the damsel in distress. With a name like Gibson Rickenbacker to go along with Fender Tremolo, we see that many of the characters are named after well-known musical instruments. This random urban ninja just saves the girl, then insists that he only did it because he thought she was somebody else before walking away. Having earned Pearl's trust anyway, and since she's currently down one male co-star, she tries to hire Gibson to escort her to Atlanta. She reveals that she's actually a cyborg with a hard drive inside her bald head that scientists implanted to better protect the formula from thieves. Suddenly Gibson's chased into a building that collapses on him while Pearl's captured by the fashionably dressed Fender with the head of her partner, but it's hard to tell if she cares because she's gone completely robotic. Intending on capturing the doctors next, the crew steal a boat and sail toward Atlanta while Gibson crawls out of the rubble the moment he hears the coast is clear. He follows the gang's heading and we learn that it's not to save Pearl or that he even cares about a cure for the plague, but that he's been hunting Fender. We flash back to when a ponytailed Gibson was a coyote and would get paid in tins of food for smuggling people out of the wasteland that is New York. A client named Mary and her two young siblings had just lost their father, so they paid Gibson to escort them to a home in the country. He started to care for the kids and fell in love with the woman, but further flashbacks reveal that something violent happened involving Fender. Gibson follows the gang's trail of destruction and is either really good or really bad at throwing a knife because he knocks out a stalker with the blunt end. When she wakes up, a survivor of the pirates' raid introduces herself as Nady, and Gibson gets himself a sidekick when she chooses to just tag along. That night they pass through a shanty town and learn nothing new from the saloon owner, just that Fender's sailing down the coast raiding villages along the way. Gibson's friend says that he heard he settled down in the country with Mary, and we get a pretty pointless flashback showing us just that. Our hero's personality's defined by his need to help other people, so as he's leaving the saloon, Gibson returns a child's ball after it's stolen by some dude with a net on his head. The next day Gibson and Nady continue to Charleston, which is apparently left of the wasteland, but as they're walking they get ambushed by more netheads. Whether they mean them harm or not, it doesn't matter, as Gibson guts them anyway while Nady flees into a nearby building. When she gets to the top floor she's caught by the rest of the gang and held at knife point until Gibson arrives with his quad-barreled paintball gun. He gets disarmed and needs to finish killing the rest of the netheads with his hands, as well as a boot shiv that works great with his proficiency for kicks. After taking out all but the final highwayman, Nady catches her first body when she knocks her captor from the building onto cement. The two killers continue walking until reaching the coast, where Fender must make land in order to reach Atlanta. While they wait, Nady gets her cheeks out and takes the opportunity to go for a swim, while a suddenly soggy Gibson must have followed suit. He joins her around the campfire, where Nady offers herself up by popping one out and pointing to it, but Gibson declines the generous offer. She then asks him what Fender did to make him so angry, and we get yet another flashback to him and Mary. It's almost as pointless as the last and just shows the couple sleeping while Fender and his pirates are seen casually watching from a window. We do however have a cool flashback from the cyborg where we see her cheerful partner had promised to get her to Atlanta and back without a hitch. The next morning Gibson confronts Fender at an abandoned refinery, as I guess ambushing the boat on arrival didn't work for them, so he sends out his biggest boy Brick. Gibson tells the girl to wait for him outside, but she obviously doesn't listen and gets herself knocked out and captured by the gang. We don't see Brick for a while, and instead an array of other colorful characters, none of whom seem to have any guns except for this guy who's immediately shot dead. His pride must take over and Gibson puts the gun away to show off his martial arts, but it backfires when he's outnumbered and almost killed by the pirate Furman. He manages to slip away with a series of dumb luck and comes across Fender standing above the body of Nady. Pulling his six-barreled of the exact same paintball gun that everyone seems to be carrying, Fender shoots Gibson as his crew begins to arrive. Revealing the woman that he's with to be the grown-up version of the younger sibling from Gibson's flashbacks, Haley, Gibson just tosses his knife at Fender, who avoids it as he's fleeing the situation. We see that Brick's just been sending lesser members to do his bidding the whole time, and Gibson doubles back around to kill the guards left watching over the hostages. He grabs Nady, but the cyborg Pearl refuses to be saved just yet and intends to lead Fender into an ambush in Atlanta. It's now when Brick decides to actually do something and chases Gibson into the sewers, but he's immediately killed when the flexible fighter drops down on his head. Along with Nady, who's finally woken up, they escape the sewers and flee through an open marsh, but the pirates catch up. Gibson fights Furman while Nady, a bodybuilder named Vorg, who reaches out and immediately gets her hand cut off. Getting stabbed with a killing blow, she still knocks Nady unconscious while Gibson appears to almost kick Furman's head off his shoulders. He then beats him to a pulp until the muscle-bound teammate Xylo arrives too late to save him and breaks off Gibson's boot shiv in their fight. The rest of the pirates arrive just as the big guy dies unremarkably, and they capture the exhausted troublemaker for Fender to tee off on. They traverse the beach with punch after punch until reaching a shipwreck where the gang nail the bloody mess that is Gibson to the mast. They leave him there to rot when Haley approaches, and we get another flashback to when Fender had her whole family tied up with barbed wire. He hung them over a well and forced the young Haley to hold the wire, but it ripped through her hands and they plummeted into it. It killed both Mary and the little brother while Gibson managed to climb out and has been hunting Haley's kidnapper for all these years. He calls her away and the gang leaves while Gibson spends hours chipping away at the mast with his boots until the whole thing breaks off and he falls to the ground. Finally waking up from her third concussion, Nady cuts Gibson free and they follow Fender's gang as they enter Atlanta with the Cyborg. With all that talk of an ambush by Pearl and waiting until nightfall, there's no stealth to Gibson's approach and he just fires an arrow at Fender's feet. Then dropping his bow and giving up his high ground, the questionable tactician battles the grateful pirates while his sidekick sneaks behind enemy lines to rescue Pearl. She's followed into a building by the oddly named Prather and takes her fourth concussion of the movie. But this chick's got a steel skull, which is more than I can say for the actual Cyborg, as she tripped over before and still hasn't moved. Nady kills Prather while Gibson finishes off the remaining pirates, including one that catches on fire and stumbles forward into an unlikely full fuel tank, causing a large explosion. Now pouring down rain for full effect, Gibson has his final showdown with Fender, but he's either not as good at fighting or just tired from beating up his gang all day. The villain wins with a series of looks that terrify me just as a viewer and is about to crush Gibson's head with a car door. But Haley yells at Fender to stop, so he goes after her instead and the fight gets really weird. He tries to kiss her but she rejects him. So he tries to kill her instead, but Gibson inadvertently kicks him towards Nady, making her the one that gets stabbed instead. It's probably for her killing both his women in the same way, and now with the knives suddenly in their sheaths, all manner of technique goes out the window when they just start trading blow for blow. Because the knives on his hip through the entire fight mysteriously disappear, Fender pulls out lucky number 3 and slashes at Gibson. But he's disarmed and our hero stabs Fender in the arm before finishing him off with a thrust to the chest. Gibson and his brainwashed adoptive daughter reconnect when, like all good movies, the villain returns and the boys continue their tussle. It brings them into a building where Fender's now got nothing left for his rival Brand, who uses a kick to mount him on a meat hook like an actual guitar. With him hopefully dead, Pearl conveniently wakes up now, and we're just supposed to hope her trip didn't destroy the cure for the plague. The survivors gather round Nady's corpse to mourn her unnecessary sacrifice before Gibson takes Pearl to the Atlantean doctor's safe house. He rejects an offer to stay, as you can't be a street ninja without the streets, and departs with Haley while Pearl drops the corniest line of the movie.
But I feel he's the real cure for this world.
And the movie ends.